Good morning, and thank you for being with us.
Right here. There you go.
On behalf of Manatee County government and the Board of Commissioners, I'd like to welcome and commend Governor Ron DeSantis for his decisive action, which has resulted in what you see taking place behind us and the rapid mitigation of the risk to Manatee County and our environment. Governor Ron DeSantis.
Okay, thank you. Well, thanks a lot, Scott. It's great to be back in Manatee County. We've made good strides at the Piney Point facility since we were last here on Easter Sunday a couple weeks ago. The situation at that time had reached a critical stage, and it necessitated direct engagement from the state. And of course, we declared a state of emergency, not just for Manatee, but also Hillsborough and Pinellas counties, to ensure proper resources were available for response and for recovery. And as a result of the resources that were made available through the state of emergency and the rapid response of the Department of Environmental Protection, the Division of Emergency Management, and Manatee County, we've mitigated the imminent threat to public safety due to the instability of the stack system at this site. Agencies at the state and local level coordinated support for air, land, and water operations to respond to the event. The National Guard provided assistance with air operations by deploying 2 helicopters to assist with moving pumps and equipment at the site. DEP and DEM deployed 26 pumps and 10 vacuum trucks to the area, and Manatee County provided 2 vacuum trucks. Through these collective efforts, within 6 days, response teams successfully managed unstable water on site that caused the uncontrolled discharge of processed water into Piney Point Creek. Within 7 days, controlled discharges of untreated water from the site to Port Manatee were stopped. Within 48 hours of discovering the source of the leak within the South Reservoir, crews fabricated and deployed a metal patch to seal the area. The repair remains sealed and will continue to be monitored. We want this to be the last chapter of the Piney Point story. So today I'm directing the Department of Environmental Protection to create a plan to close Piney Point. I've requested that DEP's team of engineers and scientists, who were obviously played an important role in this response effort, develop plans for the permanent closure of this site, including identifying necessary resources to do so. This will ensure the state is moving forward with a thoughtful scientific plan toward closure to avoid another chapter in this long history. The first step towards permanent closure is to ensure that we're ready to take the next step toward any necessary restoration and mitigation as quickly as possible. So today I'm redirecting $15.4 million from existing appropriations at DEP to be used for innovative technologies to pre-treat water at the site for nutrients, so that in the event that further controlled discharges are needed, any potential adverse environmental impacts such as algal blooms and fish kills are mitigated. Innovative technology companies are currently on site and ramping up production to ensure any water that could be required to leave the site is treated to reduce nutrients. Rigorous water quality monitoring will continue so the state can assess any potential ecological impacts from this event. This data will be used by DEP as they move forward with enforcement to hold HRK accountable. And I'm further directing DEP to fully investigate the incidents here at Piney Point and to take any and all legal actions to ensure we hold HRK and any other actors fully accountable. We're committed on a state level to working with Manatee County and using our resources to deliver a permanent solution, the closure of Piney Point. I also want to thank the folks in the legislature. Once it became clear this is something that we finally need to just mothball, Senator Simpson stepped up and offered support. So I think you're going to see us take these initial steps, but I think you're also going to see support from the legislature. And so I want Senator Wilton Simpson, the Senate President, to come up and say a few words.
Thank you. And we're obviously glad to be here today and a disaster avoided. The governor and his team's done a great job. They are putting resources together until we can get an appropriation done. And working with Senator Boyd and the representatives from this area, we immediately said that, what is going to be the ultimate need for closure. The governor put together a plan. I believe this year we're going to appropriate $100 million for the initial funding. And by the end of the year, we hope to get a full closure plan with a fully funded amount that may be required. And then the object would be to come back next year and have a fully funded plan. So we're very proud to be here today with the governor and his team. And the folks at DEP did a tremendous job, really a tremendous job, doing in the last 2 weeks, making sure there was not a bigger disaster. And it's going to be their job to put this together. So working with Senator Boyd and the governor's team, we're looking forward to appropriating these dollars. And at this time, I'd bring up Noah Valenstein from DEP.
Thank you, President. Thank you again. My name is Noah Valenstein. I have the privilege of serving as the Secretary for the Department of Environmental Protection. First, Governor and President, thank you so much for your support to make sure that this is the last story of Piney Point and that this site is closed once and for all. Since we were on site and remained on site 24/7, our team of scientists and engineers have focused first on working side by side with the county and the Division of Emergency Management to ensure public health and safety. Next, our work was to minimize any impacts to the environment and carefully measure those impacts. And so we've had a team of scientists on the water every day since this began to make sure that we had baseline samples, and we're collecting information to ensure that we see any impacts from this and can hold HRK fully accountable. We also appreciate our partners in the counties who are out there on the water with us and collaborating with us on sampling, as well as groups like the Tampa Bay Estuary Program and our local scientists at the University of South Florida. The folks that you see behind here are remaining on site again to continue, and we so much appreciate the forward push to move from emergency management to closure. But we also have a team of attorneys back at Tallahassee that are making sure they take advantage of all the information we're collecting to then put together a case to hold HRK fully accountable. And last, again, I can't emphasize enough how important and how thankful we are as an agency to have the governor's support and the legislature's support to end this story once and for all, and to make sure that this is the last chapter in the story of Piney Point. Thank you, Governor.
Great. Anyone have any questions for Noah or for me? Yep.
Sure, thank you for the question. So I would say stay tuned for updates on our litigation. We are looking and have put together a team who's able to look at any corporate entities responsible for that, and also whether the facts that we collect allow us to identify any individuals associated with those. So we look forward to making our case in court. And again, we are preparing as rigorous a legal team as you've seen here on the ground with scientists and engineers to absolutely make certain that we are moving forward and putting every effort to hold folks accountable, regardless or not of particular corporation's circumstances. Sure, great question. I mean, I think the first change is that unlike every other chapter of Piney Point where something like this happened and then somehow there was a new plan to let the site keep going, right? An opportunity to close it and then an opportunity missed. I think that's the first change. And again, I can't thank the governor and the legislature enough for saying, no, this is it. The site has to be closed. Let's not let a new chapter, let's not come up with a new business plan to have some company come in and support future business endeavor on the site. Let's clean the site up and end it once and for all. And then beyond that, yes, absolutely. Anytime that we have an environmental circumstance here in Florida, now with the infrastructure that the governor's support and the legislature's support at the agency between our chief science officer, our Blue Green Algae Task Force, our scientific bodies like that, we absolutely take a look at that and then say, what can we learn from it and what do we need to do from here on forward? Sure. Thank you for the question. Again, I think everyone scratches their head. What made sense with the having HRK come in and do this more than a decade ago? How did that happen? The more I learn, the less I understand that. So certainly that's being looked at. The first question, though, right, the most relevant question to that point is that going to be allowed to happen again? Because every day I've been here, I've gotten a different question from either one of our scientists, from one of the county scientists, or for residents in the area of, is there going to be another reinvention of this story? You know, we've lived through so many reinventions of Piney Point where a new business plan is allowed to come in. And so again, to that point, the most important decision is no. Have the site closed, finish cleaning it up, and not allow another story like that to happen.
Very good question. So the question was about CDC taking action this morning, advocating a pause for use of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Apparently, I think they found about a half a dozen individuals who had blood clotting, so they're monitoring it out of abundance of caution. So what I'd say is a couple things. One, we have not seen any significant effects with J&J here in Florida, and so I got J&J. I think my arm was sore for 45 minutes, and then that was that. And so I think the track record thus far in Florida has been good. At the same time, because CDC is doing that, we're respecting that decision. We're going to follow that recommendation and monitor what they're doing for the time being. But I think that what they're doing is out of an abundance of caution. I don't think people should be worried who've already had it, who haven't had any effects. I think it's likely going to be very effective for you. But given that they're doing it, we feel that that's the appropriate thing to do. But you look at this, and it's a serious. Obviously, you want to know everything. It's an emergency use. There's a lot of medications that people take every day that have risk of blood clotting and some other stuff, and the physician will tell the patient. The patient can make an informed decision. This is under emergency use, and so yes, there have been trials. It's been approved for emergency use, but it isn't like it's something that's been used for 10 years. So I think the caution is much more stringent on something like this than something that maybe have much higher risk, but has been something that's kind of known. So that's kind of what's going on here. So, but I don't think people should be freaking out, because if you look at it, I think they've done between 7 and 10 million J&J shots in the United States so far. You found these 6. There's obviously probably some more because you haven't identified any, but it's still a very small number. And you also have to balance that against how many people are alive today because they had the J&J vaccine. I mean, there's no question that it saved lives already. And so same with the Pfizer and the Moderna. So that's really, really significant. So I think hopefully they'll do this quickly, get the information, and then hopefully we can move forward. But we are, in light of that, just acknowledging that they're doing it. We're following the recommendation to pause in the meantime. We're going to look closely at what they end up saying and doing. But my hope would be that this is something that is a little bit of a speed bump and that you would be able to get back. But we're going to wait and see what ends up happening. So we'll have more news on that as the CDC provides more information to us. But as it stands now, we do have a lot of the Pfizer and Moderna. The J&J production had actually gone down. So last week we had, I think, about 300,000 was the most we had ever had at J&J, and that was going down this week and next week anyways. And so most of those J&J shots were already used. So in terms of availability, I think you're still going to have very robust availability of the vaccine. So thanks, everybody.